Good morning. A little bit early. Let me just get the YouTube one working and we are away. Got it. Okay. I'm live streaming to YouTube, but it's unlisted at the moment because it's easier to embed then and share if I need other people to watch this. So a couple of minutes to go, and today we're talking about strategy. How many of you have a strategy for your speaking? How many of you know exactly when you're going to speak? Who to? For how long? Where are they? We don't use strategy enough. Let's let Georgina in. Okay, well, good morning. And one more minute. I so have to start on time. It's part of being a speaker that you start on time and you end on time. So people coming in late will miss the beginning because that's how it works. Right then, so today we are talking all things strategy. And I want you to think about this because I know a lot of people that do YouTube lives and they do them at the same time, you know, to their groups and things like that. And that works really, really well. If you're going to go live and you want people to turn up live, you have to be very consistent because people have to have it ingrained in their head that there's this live coming up. And I know a lot of people who have teams or sales teams that they will have these regular live meetings. So good morning, Mary. Good morning, Georgiana. What a lovely name, Georgiana. Oh, dead on 9 o'clock. So here we go. Let's dive in. And I'm going to be mostly talking and maybe asking questions today about strategy. Hi, Mary. So on Facebook, it works better on Facebook, I think, because a lot of people would have their groups on Facebook, and groups work really, really, really well for people. So they will have a regular live session that they have put into their marketing strategy. And people get used to it. So when I talk about a speaking strategy, I'm talking about when you sit down and ask yourself, the first question is why? It's always the why. Why do you want to speak? Or why do you need to speak? It should be a bigger question. And if you hate the idea of public speaking, and some people just freeze and don't like the idea, then having a strategy is going to help you lower your stress levels. Because rather than jumping into everything that you can do or you're asked to do and stressing over it all, you take back control of that journey for yourself. So the first question I'll always ask anybody that I'm coaching is, okay, so yes, we all know you need to be speaking, but do you want to speak to raise awareness of your business? Do you want to speak to sell? Do you just want to be a speaker? And trust me, there is nothing wrong with that because been there, love it. But even that, you need a strategy around. Or are you doing it because you feel you have to? And that's a big question to ask yourself. Do you have to be doing it? And once again, I'm going to come back to your business. Now, if you own a bricks and mortar business and maybe, you know, you don't need to go networking, it's a really, really popular, it's lovely, and you're probably thinking, well, I don't need to go and speak. Everybody's coming into my premises, everybody's shopping. I don't need to do any marketing, which is fine. But if you want that business to grow, or you want to become the go-to person in your field, then you have to have a strategy around how you're going to make that happen. And it may be that for you, if you've got that sort of business, that going networking the local shops, maybe speaking on your local radio, maybe you want to speak on your local TV station. You need to have a strategy on how you can make that happen. How do you do that? If you want to speak to grow your business because it's a service-based industry, or you work from home and things like that, it needs a completely different strategy. That's around, how do I become visible? And if you're online, that's the biggest question of all. How do you become visible? How do you get seen and heard? And then we go into the realm of, I want to speak. I want to speak publicly. I have a clear message I want to spread. I've had something happen, or I've written a book, and I want to be paid to speak on stages. So you've sort of got three areas here that have different strategies and different approaches. So I'm going to start on the end bit first, for those of you that want to speak and get paid for it. And the first thing I'm going to say is, it's very difficult to get paid to speak. We all think it's easy. And yes, you'll get the odd £100, couple of £100 here and there to speak. To stand on a stage and get paid £25,000 to speak is not as easy. It's not impossible, but it's not as easy. Because there are certain things that are required of you when you get to that level of being a speaker. And the strategy has to include the journey. So if you want to be a speaker, you have to accept the fact that to begin with, you are going to be doing it for nothing. You are going to hone your craft speaking at local events, maybe, national events, maybe even international events, who will just pay your expenses. But in order to do that, you have to have something really important to say, something that that audience requires, and something that an organizer needs. So what your strategy has to include is, even more so, what is my audience and where are they? If you've written a book, honestly, this whole book thing that I come back to, because I'm told so often I need to write a book, I need to write a book. I don't want to write a book. I don't want to write a book. But I have to say that if you have written a book, and that book has gone down really, really well, and this is not your sort of typical, we see books now turning up all over the place that are self-published, on how to be a social media expert, or how to be this or how to be that. Unless that book has reached millions, it's nobody cares, not really. But you may find that you can speak on a very, very big stage because you're going to sell that book. So you have to think about this. I do know, and I have to say it's mostly males, and I haven't figured out why this is, that do earn huge amounts of money standing on big stages, huge amounts. So there's no reason why you can't do it as well. No reason at all. But as I say, you have to start with the premise that you are going to spend some time doing it for nothing. Really getting your name heard, really getting that message heard. It may be that your niche is something very particular. One of my clients, young girl fresh out of university, niched into using drones for emergency services. Had not been done before. She created a whole workbook, a recommendation around the way it's done. And because it was so niche, she was able then to go out and spread that word and talk about how useful drones were in saving lives and things. She speaks on international stages all around the world now and gets paid a lot of money for it. But it's very niche. There's only 2 women in the whole world that do that. And so if you've got something like that, it makes your life slightly easier. However, for most of us, we don't have that. We might have a speciality. So for me, my speciality is generally storytelling and clear messaging. Those are the two things I speak about when I go out as a speaker. The second thing in your strategy you have to consider then is, how do I make my message different to everybody else's? Because a lot of people talk about storytelling and a lot of people talk about messaging. So what makes me different? What makes people want me to stand on this stage and explain that? So you have to find the why you. Why would people ask you to come and do that speaking? And then when you've got that and you've done a few of these things, your strategy will be saying to you, okay, I'm beginning to get known. I'm beginning to spread the word. I do a lot of, post-event things around, I've been asked to speak here. I've been asked to speak there. You then have to think about your publicity. What do you have that an event organizer wants? And I have to tell you, as a speaker, the event organizer is your God. And I hate to say that and blaspheme, but that is it. Because if you upset an event organizer, all event organizers will find out, and the chances are they won't want to work with you. So unless you're really, really famous, like on TV, film famous, you have to play the game of the organizer. So to do that, and you've found the perfect event that you want to speak at, you have to have your own publicity pack. You have to give them all the information they need without them chasing you. And so that pack includes your speaker one sheet. It will include your speaker reel. It will include testimonials from places that you've spoken at before. It will include all your headshots. It will include any press releases you've done or any articles. Anything that an event organizer can use to publicize you as a speaker on their event website is what you need. And an event organizer will come back to you time and time again if you make their lives easy. So I come back to, when I talk about the speaker, it's not all about you. It isn't. In order to get onto those stages. Now, people say to me, you have to go through a bureau to get the big bucks. Again, that's not totally true if you get your name known. If you want to work through a speaker bureau, that's getting harder and harder these days, much harder. That works if you want to put that in your strategy and sit back and let a bureau do the work for you. But that will cost you, and it will cost you a percentage of any money you get when you speak. It may cost you a monthly event. It may cost you something else. So again, you have to think about that. So that's if you want to be a professional speaker. And all of that stuff is easily put together if you understand why, what it's needed for, what is required from an event organizer, and how you then do all that and put it all together. And part of your strategy then has to be, how do I find these events? How do I find out if people are looking for speakers? It's not advertised generally, and you have to know where to go in order to find those people. So if you want to be a professional speaker, think in terms of your strategy as a relatively, it's not going to be a short-term strategy if you haven't got a really particular niche. It's going to be, you're going to have to start off with a 3 to 4 year strategy of, these are the places I'll speak for free. And I'm going to do that in order to either get more clients, to get testimony, to practice my particular message, my particular speech, to hone my craft, to be really good at what I do, so that I can then gather all that material I want together. And I'll tell you now, your speaker reels, they could be very expensive, professionally done, but if you get asked to speak an event and they are recording that event, they will use professional people to record that event. Make sure that you always ask for a copy of your speech. because it will be professionally recorded and you can slot it into your speaker reel. So think about all that, and then think about your strategy on, okay, how am I going to find these places? And, you know, that takes time, takes a certain amount of time. And where am I going to be? And what am I going to charge? What is the cost of what I say? There's all of that that has to come into part. So you have to think about that strategy. But that strategy is usually the end part of the beginning. So I'm going backwards, because I absolutely believe that if your end goal is to be a professional speaker and you know the strategy you need, then when you start, you can make sure your strategy is flowing into that one. Otherwise, you go, oh, I've done this, and my business is really well known. I've written this book, I've done all that, and suddenly it's, I want to be a professional speaker. And I say to you, great, where are all the recordings of the stuff you've done? Where's all the, and you haven't thought about it. So you have to start from scratch to get all that information together, unless you have a ton of money and you can get people professionally to do stuff for you. So the beginning bit is, I want to speak. What's your strategy? Well, this is part of what we do with this weekly moment of mine. That your beginning strategy is, why do I want to speak? Why do I need to speak? Who am I speaking to? Where are they? And then that really, really important question, what do I want to say to them? And do you know how many times people forget that key message? What do I want to say to them? A lot. Because you may have a lovely big amount of stuff you want to tell you. I mean, I would love to verbally vomit everything you need to be a speaker. But if I did that, you'd be overwhelmed. You'd spend so much time going back over recordings to figure out which bit you need at that time, that to make life easier, I've broken it down to one key message at a time. And that's what any speech should do. So you have to decide, what is it you want to say to people? Because that's your strategy. And to coin a phrase I use a lot, please do not be a butcher who gets invited to a vegetarian conference and wonder why you're not getting anywhere. It's okay to turn down people who ask you to speak. And sometimes people will ask you because you're a good speaker and you'll entertain the audience, and they'll ask you because they've got a gap they want to fill. And that's fine, so long as you know that. So long as you accept that and go, yeah, I'll go along, it's good practice. Yeah, I can entertain, I can do all of that. I get asked so many times because I'm a good speaker, because I know my audience and I can make them laugh. And sometimes I'll do it because I like the person who's organizing it. I might do it because I actually like the concept of the conference. But a lot of the time I go, well, no, not really, because that audience isn't my audience and I would have no idea what to say to them. I wouldn't know what to say to them. And it isn't my place to make it up in order to say something that I think they need to hear. So be very clear in what you want to say. That's so important in your strategy. So now you have this basic. So you've done all that homework, that you've been listening to these and you've watched the replays, you've got all that homework. You now have to plan just like you would with your marketing. So if you're going to do, like I do a weekly moment, I do this one every week, and it is within my marketing strategy. It's in my calendar every Thursday, 9 o'clock. I come on, I plan what I'm going to say, and it's in my strategy of speaking. And everybody knows, well, everybody knows, they know it's Thursday, 9 o'clock. I'm not completely convinced I've got this bit of the strategy right. I think it's too early. I think it may be the wrong day, but you'll all find out if I change that before January. And that's the other thing. Sometimes you'll strategize something and realize it's not quite working the way I thought it would. I'm going to change it slightly. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong, as long as it's in that strategy and you're not thinking, oh, I'll go do a recording today, or oh, I'll do a live, maybe that'll interest people. If your strategy is to gain more followers online, social media, and you want to do it through video or live streaming, you have to have a strategy. It's exactly the same as you do if you're posting something. You have to decide, what are you going to say and which social media you're going to say it to? Are you going to do it live? Are you going to do audio? Are you going to do it as a video, then upload? All of that. You have to make those decisions. And for me, when I think about my strategy, I think, okay, I'm going to need lots of content for posting. So I always record with video, even if it's for a podcast or I'm just putting the audio up, because I can then use the video. I can transcribe the video for posts. I can snip it down into short reels. I can use it for all sorts of things. And if you get some really good sort of mistakes happening, they make great little sort of bloomer type things when you go, oops, guess what? They make you human. So my strategy is again, when I'm speaking, what am I going to do with all that information? What am I going to do with those assets I'm creating? How can I use them again? The other thing about your strategy is to consider, if I'm going to sit at home and do a video like this, what does my background look like? And I know people laugh at me when I say that, but background is quite important. Now, in my office, because I'm at home doing this today, in my office, I have my banner behind me. I have information about me behind me, very clean. So people are constantly reminded of who I am, even though people are constantly reminded of who I am all the time because of my coloured hair. But it's about, how am I putting that across? What do I want people to know? Is Zoom the right thing? Because you can't put a lot of information on Zoom about who you are. There are other streaming platforms where you can have your logo on there, or you can have this ticker tape going with your website on and all sorts of things. So within your strategy, what is it, the added extra into those things that you're doing online? What is the added extra? Now, I will go and edit these videos. I go into Canva and I will upload the video and I will put my logo on there, and I'll have a top and a tail, a beginning and an end, where all that information is. And it becomes something a little bit different than just the Zoom recording. It's about, how do you make yourself different from everybody else? Now, I often say to people, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to be a perfect speaker, as long as you've got a really clear message and people understand that. But I'm going to put a caveat on that. If you can't keep people's attention for more than 10 minutes, you need to work on that. Part of your strategy may be having coaching in, how do I keep people's attention? How do I sound like and look like I'm speaking to you through a camera? How, if I'm on stage, do I use that stage? So now we're talking about the practicalities. Do you need to learn how to use body language, how to understand eye contact, to understand gestures, to understand pausing? Do you feel confident enough that you can use a whole stage rather than stand stock still like a robot? Those things, whilst not essential, will make you different, make you more visible than some other people. You have to figure out how you can keep their attention, and that needs to be part of your strategy. So when you're going through it, and let's relate that to your marketing strategy. You know, we go through our marketing strategy, we go, right, for me, it's like, don't like Facebook. So I'll post to Facebook, but I'm not really taking a lot of notice of it. I'm not working it. I use LinkedIn a lot. So I work LinkedIn. I make sure that at least 1 or 2 posts a day go to LinkedIn. I make sure that some of those posts are how-to posts. I make sure that some of them are, you know, if you want to do this, so they're more like publicity ones. I put articles. I make people aware on LinkedIn that I'm the go-to person when it comes to public speaking, that not only do I understand how to, I understand the why, and I understand the psychology of how people listen. So my marketing strategy is aimed at LinkedIn. I also then within my strategy have some other outside forums that I will send articles to, or I'll share blog posts to, that are quite useful. So that's my strategy. And in amongst that, then it's, okay, how often am I going to send a video? How often am I going to do a live stream? I'm going to set up events on LinkedIn. I'm going to do all of this. And when I look at it, I go, okay, do I know how to do this? Do I really understand the algorithms of LinkedIn? Well, does anybody really? But if I don't, I learn. I'll go and find someone who'll show me how that works. How long should a video be on LinkedIn? Not very long. People just, they don't have their attention span. Audio works better on LinkedIn because people are working and listening. You learn all that. So when you're looking at your speaking strategy, look at it all and think, do I need to learn more about that? Do I need to understand exactly what my message is? Do I truly understand all of this stuff underneath? And you may have all of that in place and then go, yeah, but actually when I'm on that stage, I get really scared and I don't move. I don't know what the audience is doing. I don't want to look at anybody. I don't move from this spot. No one can hear me. Then you have to learn how to do that. And I learned how to do all that. Good speakers learn how to do all that. Yes, there are some great speakers out there that it comes very naturally to. Mostly men again, because I think men just love to stand up and you know, they can be loud and things. We women find it a little bit more difficult. If you want to sell from the stage, how do you do that without turning into a salesy, creepy, you know, like the men stand up there rallying the troops and dragging everybody out of the audience? We don't all have to do that. But if you are going to sell from the stage, if you've got that book you want to sell or that course you want to sell, you do have to pull your audience in. You have to make them enjoy you. You have to engage with them to the point where they go, I really want to work with them. People who want a lot of fun and all the rest of it will look at me and go, I really want to work with Bev. People who are more formal, and there are people out there that don't like the fact I've got coloured hair or that I, you know, race around the stage or do whatever I do, and that's okay. They're not my audience. They're not my client group. So you have to figure out once you know who they are and where they are, and how are you going to do this? How are you going to approach them? It all has to be part of your strategy. And I know we all hate strategy. We're creatives. And I don't care what people say, most public speakers are creatives. They want to share what's in their heart. They want to share with the world what they know. They want to tell their story because it's inspirational and because it will support and help other people. And that is great. But you have to know the difference between inspirational, motivational speaking and selling and giving information. They're three different energies. They can be brought into one. They can. But they're actually three different energies. And again, you're back to your audience. Where are they? What do I want to say? And how am I going to say it? So the last sort of 3 or 4 of these sessions we've had have been looking at your audience and where are they and what media you're going to use. So now the strategy is you take all those bits and you sit down and you look at it and you go, okay, I understand that now. What's my next step? What am I going to do to get closer to that goal of speaking, of getting over the fear of speaking, of being able to enjoy speaking? And then you have to go do it. So that was today, and that's why there isn't a great big sort of presentation on it today, because I really wanted to explain it to you in the way, because we all put strategies together in a different way. I have a completely different way to put strategy together than other people. My business plan is on an A4 sheet of paper with lots of colored pens and arrows. I don't do long printed things. My speaking strategy is literally on one piece of paper, all in front of me, all in colored pen, also I can follow them. And also I don't fall down the rabbit hole of somebody saying, come and speak, there's 4,000 people there and all you have to do is give me £300 to do it. That's part of your strategy. Are you going to do that? And I'm going to put a plea out now to people who do that, because I've been to some of these events where people have paid to speak, paid a lot of money to speak. They're wasting their time because they haven't done the preparation. They haven't done the, what is my message? What is my audience? They haven't looked at it and gone, actually, I'm going to invest this £300 because out of those 4,000 people in the audience, most of them are my client, and I will, that's a good investment. Because I'm not saying you should never pay to speak, but you have to know why you're doing it and whether it's going to do you any good. And I have seen people go up there and I ask myself, why would they do that? Why would they pay to do something that they don't know how to do? So think about that as well in your strategy.